Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of the 451 podcast with myself, Phil and Cam. If you do enjoy everything football related on the channel, make sure to give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and let us know with podcast ideas and what you would want to see in the future in the comments section down. To give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and let us know with podcast ideas and what you would want to see in the future in the comments section down below. So today we're reviewing the whole Premier League season, obviously the extended season because of the coronavirus, and we've got a bunch of categories that we're going to overlook and go through. So we'll start with you, Phil. We're going to start with overachieving teams. So your first overachieving team in the Premier League this season.
Yes, the first team that I've selected that I think's overachieved this season is Sheffield United. Got promoted from the Championship last season, and I think a lot of people wrote them off before they even played a single minute, but I think they proved everyone wrong, and before the restart they was 6th or 7th in the league and pushing for Europe, so I think that's a massive achievement as it is. Did filter out slightly. I think they lost momentum after having so many months out of not playing, but for the first season in the Premier League since 2006 to finish in 9th place with a team that has literally gone through all League One and Championship is a massive achievement. And I think a lot of Sheffield United fans have to remember that, because he will be a bit disappointed how it filtered out, but for the main part of the season he was absolutely outstanding in some games.
Cam, I'm guessing you've got Sheffield United as well as one of your overachieving teams.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think you can really look past them, to be honest. Imagine if you offered them 9th at the start of the season, they'd like snap your hand off. But I think obviously the underwhelming finish to the season has kind of made it look a bit worse, finishing 9th, considering they were in a shout of Europe. But it's still a brilliant finish, and to have that form all across the season. And as Phil said, it is. I think everyone's kind of forgotten they were only promoted from the Championship last season, so I don't really. Yeah, you can't really look past them as your most overachieving team. What about you?
I've got Sheffield United as well, obviously. Looking at the team on paper, you look at the players that they've got. They've got McGoldrick, McBurney, Billy Sharp, Jack O'Connell, John Fleck. Players like that that shouldn't really be individually. They're not Premier League standard, but I think it is a testament to how Chris Wilder's got them playing. And yeah, like you said, I think the underwhelming finish to the season has kind of been a knock on the season, but like you said, I think if at the start of the season, if you'd have said 9th to them, I think they would have bit your hand off. So yeah, I've been very impressed with Sheffield United this season, and I think it's a model that Championship clubs that are getting promoted should look to try and replicate. And I think while Chris Wilder's still in charge of Sheffield United, I don't think they're going to go down either, because I think he is a brilliant manager, probably underlooked as that. So yeah, I think Sheffield United have been brilliant this season despite their underwhelming finish to the season. Cam, we'll go to you for the second overachieving team. Who have you got?
This one was more difficult to choose, because I think the top half of the table is just stacked with good clubs nowadays, and all the teams in the bottom half of the table, they're just a mid-table club. But I think I've gone for Southampton. They finished 11th, and they're probably one of the most average-looking teams in the bottom half of the table. They don't spend massive amounts of money. They don't have any players which you go, wow, they need to get a big move or anything. But obviously everyone's been mentioning their 9-0 loss to Leicester over the recent weeks, because to get 11th, just a massive achievement. And that is testament to Ralph Hasenhüttl, because he was favourite to get sacked obviously after that result. But they've gained more points than Leicester since that match. So yeah, I don't know whether you can say it's the most overachieving team of the season, but I think 11th is a brilliant finish for them, considering the other teams.
Phil, what do you make to that?
I can see where it's coming from, because at the one stage of the season it looks like they looked like the fate was to go down back to the Championship. But I think it's quite refreshing to see owners stick by the manager, allow him to change things and try and get the players back up with confidence, because after a 9-0 loss, it must be so demoralising in the top flight when everyone around the country's seen your team get absolutely battered. But no, I think they've done very well. I think it's 44 points you've collected since that loss, which is 2 more than Leicester, which goes to show what a good job they've done. And I think they'll be quite happy to return the season around like they did and next season for them to push on.
How highly do you rate Hasenhüttl as a manager, Cam?
I rate him really highly, to be honest. He did a brilliant job with RB Leipzig, wasn't it?
Yeah, before.
Yeah, and I think, not sure, I think he went to Southampton to put a model in place, kind of like what Pochettino did, and I think he could make the step up eventually. I do rate him highly.
Yeah, he comes from that kind of, obviously, a German coach, a stereotypical German coach, a bit like Jurgen Klopp with the high intensity pressing and playing playing good football. Yeah, I agree with you. I think even I probably overlooked Southampton as being an overachieving team.
That's the one.
Yeah, there we go. I mean, I haven't got them down, but I definitely agree with you when obviously they looked doomed from that 9-0 loss against Leicester, and how they've bounced back from that since then. Obviously, with the help of Danny Ings and other players, they have been brilliant since then. But my second overachieving team, I've got Chelsea, and this is purely based on what they were expected to do right at the start of the season. Obviously, because they had the transfer embargo at the start of the season, not being able to bring in any players and having to rely on youth and maybe the unknown of Frank Lampard in charge of a big club. I think they've done brilliant to get Champions League football. I think many probably said maybe just getting Europa League football or maybe dropping out of the top 6. And I think Lampard's done a superb job. I think he's definitely proven himself as a manager that can operate at the top level. So yeah, I was impressed with Chelsea this season. Phil, what about you? I know you're a lover of Chelsea.
I think in certain parts of the season they've done really well, but I think whether you can say they've underachieved rather. I think they still have really good players at the club, so I think they should still have been looking for the top 4. But I agree. I think a lot of people did think they'd struggle this season with Lampard first season in top flight, but no, I think they have done well. And at times, throughout this, when we've been doing this podcast, I've been the first person to say when they've been doing well and how well they were doing, especially in the first section of the season. I think they did really well, and then they dropped off a bit, I think around the winter. But no, they have done well, and it's a good shout for an overachieving side. I've actually selected a different team to both of you for my second one. So shall I go into that now?
Yes, please do.
So I don't know whether people will agree with me on this, but I've gone for Leicester City as being another overachieving side this season.
Yeah.
I think you have to remember on Boxing Day they were second in the league above everybody apart Liverpool, and if you said that to someone before the season, I don't think any Leicester fan would have believed you. And although the season did filter out, I think you have to remember 5th place for a team like Leicester is brilliant. They've got some good players at this club, but again, I think compared to the teams around them, I think they've done better than them this season. I don't know what you two think about
because I did think Leicester would get Europa League rather than Chelsea this season, but I think just because I didn't put them in just because they were third for literally 3/4 of the season, and now obviously with the season ending they find themselves in the Europa League spots despite being in the Champions League places for so long in the season. That's why I've not put them in and overachieving. But I mean, it's still a brilliant job done by Brendan Rodgers at Leicester. I think they've been really unfortunate with the injuries that they got as well to both fullbacks, to Maddison at the end of the season. So maybe if those injuries didn't occur, then maybe they would be in the Champions League right now. But yeah, no, I can see where you're coming from with why you would say that they are an overachieving team. Have we got any other shouts, or shall we move on?
No, I was close to putting Leicester as well, to be honest. Because the season as a whole, I think you've got to look at it really positive, and to finish above Tottenham and Arsenal. They're quite a forgetful team, Arsenal.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you'll have to forgive me. No, but yeah, I think Leicester are deserving of that. Yeah, I've got no one else.
Should we move on to the next category then?
Yeah, I reckon so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll go the other way now, and say talk about the underachieving teams this season. So I will go to you, Phil, first. Who have you got?
So I like being controversial, especially when you're around, Lucas. So I've gone for Manchester City as being an underachieving team this season. Here's my reasons why. I think as a team that's collected 198 points before the season had kicked off, I think any City fan would not want to be 18 points behind the eventual champions. And I think there has been reasons for that, losing a club legend in Kompany last summer, and then Laporte getting an unfortunate injury, and Sane as well. But I think you've still got enough players in that squad, a world-class squad, that should be competing more competitively and being more consistent than they have been. Losing 9 games this season, I bet that's more than the last 2 seasons combined. I just think under the manager and the squad and everything like that, I think they should have done better. I mean, second place at the end of the day, second place, but I think it's a gap between that and the first position why I think you've underachieved in the league this season.
I'm gonna say I agree with you, just because of the margins that we've won the league by. Obviously in 17-18 and less so last season, but still a fantastic season last season, nevertheless probably arguably better than the 100-point season. I think based on those expectations alone, probably I would agree with you saying that they are underachieving.
When I'm saying it's a testament to how good of a team you are. Like, it's not me trying to say you're not a good team. I just think the standards you've set over the last 2 years has been remarkable. And then for a drop off that we've seen this season, maybe it's inevitable, but I think it's just, if you're going by underachieving, that's what I'd class it as. But what are the reasons for it? There's no more in it than that, because you've still been a good team. You've been the second best team in the league this season by a fair margin. So that's my reasons for it.
I'll agree with you. I'll let you off on that one.
You sounded hurt.
It's
Lucas.
No, but I do understand. I mean, it's because of the expectations we've set ourselves over the past 2 seasons. I can see why you'd think that. Do you agree, Cam?
They aren't. I haven't chosen them personally, but I do agree that they have underachieved. But I think there are more underachieving teams than Man City.
Yeah, I think that's what I may have gone
for.
Before
going into the season, Lucas, did you think that you would win the league for the 3rd time in a row?
Yes, I did. Just because I thought I didn't expect Liverpool, because Liverpool didn't bring anyone in fresh. I just thought, because we've brought in a few fresh faces, that it'd probably mix it up a little bit, keep it fresh. I mean, I keep saying fresh, but and just because Liverpool didn't do that, I thought we'd win not by a 18-point margin, but by a bigger margin than the one last season. But Liverpool obviously have been brilliant this season, have been well worthy of the title. So Cam, I'll go to you. What about your first underachieving team?
I've gone into near relegation fight with West Ham. 16th in the league they finished, and some people look at it positive that they've stayed up, and obviously it is a slight achievement, but they spent 110 million in the summer, which is most in the majority of clubs. Like 45 million on Sebastian Haller, 25 on Fornals, 20 on Bowen. They should be finishing higher than 16th. If you spend that amount of money, you should be like safely mid-table, fighting for top half with the squad that they've got, and especially starting off the season with Pellegrini as well. I think it's just an awful season for them overall, and I think people lowered their expectations for West Ham in the end.
it must be so frustrating to be a West Ham fan, because every season you look at the players that they buy. I mean, this season, like you said, they brought in Allaire, Fornals. These are good players that have played in Europe. And the rest of the team on paper is actually really strong and probably worthy of a top 10 finish. But it's every season where something seems to go wrong, whether it be management, whether it be personnel, whether it be with fans and the owners. It seems to go wrong, and it ends up being not disastrous, of course, because they've still managed to stay up, but so underwhelming compared to where you'd like to be as a West Ham fan. Obviously, with the new stadium that they've got, they aimed to be playing in Europe, and they've not managed that in the 3 or 4 seasons that they've been in the London Stadium. So yeah, I agree with you, and I've got West Ham down as one of my underachieving teams, just because every season you think, maybe this is the season where they manage to kick on, but it never seems to come to fruition.
Yeah, I think them kind of teams in the bottom half of the table, they look up the table and they see Burnley in the top half every season, and they hardly spend any money, and they just get the right system. I mean, you spend 110 million, you should easily be finishing above Burnley. But so they are an underachieving team. Well, my most underachieving team.
What about you, Phil? Do you agree with that?
No, I do agree. I think we've mentioned it around Christmas when he was struggling then, about just as a team they spend so much money on players, and they should be looking for easily top half. You're spending over 100 million in the current window. I just think you should be aiming a lot higher than what they're achieving, and it's a good shot. I haven't got them myself, but thinking about it, they are probably one of the most underachieving teams out there. And if I was a West Ham fan, I would absolutely hate it, just seeing your team week in and week out disappoint.
Yeah.
And if it weren't for a bit of Antonio brilliance over the last 7 games, he could have found themselves in the Championship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, potentially. I mean, who knows? For my other underachieving team, other than West Ham, I've got Arsenal. I mean, it's obviously easy to say just because they've not even finished in Europe this season. I think, did they finish 8th in the end? Or was it 10th?
I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure it's 8 or
Arsenal.
10.
Arsenal finished 8th.
8th. Yeah, just because, just on the basis that they've not even managed to get Europe this season, I think it's been an absolutely terrible, I wouldn't say disastrous season, but terrible not to get Europe. You think about the revenue that brings into the club. They're short on that anyway, with Stan Kroenke not pumping in as much money as other owners that are competing at a top 6 level. So much has gone wrong this season with the Xhaka controversy. We seem to forget about that before Christmas. Obviously, everything that went on with Unai Emery. I think it's been a terrible season, and I think, to be fair to Mikel Arteta, I think he's started to perhaps turn the ship round in terms of getting results. And maybe if it wasn't for Arteta and a spike in performances towards the end of the season, I think maybe they could have finished 10th or even below that, because the personnel before Christmas, how they were playing, they were shocking, and I was genuinely worried for them. But they have managed to turn it round, in fairness to them. But I still think it's been a terrible season on the whole. What about you, Cam? What do you think?
I completely agree. I've also got them down. So we got the same two, West Ham and Arsenal.
Yep.
Yeah. To finish 8th, you wouldn't even be blamed to call it a disastrous season, because you look at some of the teams above them, like Tottenham. They've had a complete mess of a season. They've still finished above Arsenal, and Arsenal should be looking at Wolves and Leicester, thinking we should be finishing higher than them. And to only finish 4 points clear of Southampton in 11th, that it is massively underachieving. It's been, like you said, a terrible season. And you look at their players, Aubameyang and Lacazette up front, and they made a fair few signings last summer as well. And Pepe, 72 million.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it is just terrible from them, to be honest. And that's not even me hating on Arsenal. Like, it genuinely just is.
Yeah.
For a club of their size, stature, and everything.
Phil, do you think next season will be will be better for Arsenal, maybe because they're not in Europe and don't have to play Thursday, Sunday more or less every week?
I think not only could it be better, it has to be better. For a club like Arsenal, one of the traditionally biggest clubs in England, they cannot think finishing 8th, 7th, even 6th is a good finish for the club. It's been a difficult one for them because, like you mentioned, they've had a lot of different incidents across the season. And you'd imagine under Arteta that he's stabling the ship a bit and they'll try and improve over the summer. But it remains to be seen whether they can improve. They've had a really poor season, and I think it will help not being in Europe because there's less games to play, less travelling, and they can focus on just competing well in the league. And maybe even like they have this season got to an FA Cup final. But if we're focusing on the Premier League like we are, I think they need to improve next season. Whether they can, I'm not sure.
I completely forgot about the FA Cup. So yeah, I mean they still could finish in Europe, and whether they have the squad for that, I don't know. It's going to be interesting if they don't win the FA Cup final to see what the transfer strategy actually is, because who are they going to recruit at a top level who doesn't want to play in Europe? So
I think the good thing is, since Arteta has, sorry to interrupt, I think the good thing is since Arteta has come in, key players this season from like Saka have signed new contract and things like that. So I feel like he's got a vision for the club, and it's not going to happen overnight for them. But yeah, whether they get into Europe or not through the FA Cup this year, for me, I don't know whether they'll improve next season or not. It really depends on who they bring in and the style of play that they settle for, because they've gone more defensive, I think, since the restart against many teams.
Mm-hmm.
And whether that's a new style of play or it's just to get them to the end of the season or not, I think it'll be interesting to see how they do next season.
Yeah, I think there is certainly some upside. I mean, at Christmas time it didn't really look like there was going to be any upside from this season, but you think about the long-term contract that Bukayo Saka's just signed, that's going to be good for them going forward. The resurgence of Kieran Tierney and Granit Xhaka, who have actually both been brilliant. I remember watching the FA Cup semi-final; they were both brilliant against Man City. Ceballos, whether he's going to sign a new contract and stay another season or go back to Real Madrid. There'll be more on that later on in the podcast. But yeah, there is certainly some upside. It's not going to be all doom and gloom for Arsenal, but I think they need Europe bad for their moving forward, for both on the pitch and off the pitch in terms of the financials and whatnot. So yeah. Have we got any other underachieving teams, or should we move on?
I haven't said my second one yet.
Oh yeah,
so
sorry, go for it.
Yeah, I've gone for their rivals, Tottenham Hotspur. I think they've had a really poor season, and I think they are an underachieving side as well. I think what we'll have to remember is they was in a Champions League final last summer, and this season they've only finished 6th. And I think maybe you could argue it was coming. The team was aging. They hadn't changed it much over the last 3-4 years. But I just think losing Pochettino, who's been one of the best managers I think the Premier League's seen in the last 5-6 years. I know he hasn't won anything, but he did make such a difference to a Tottenham side. He had his own vision for them, and he took them so close to the title. But I think they just had such a poor season for the way they've been the last few seasons. I think they are an underachieving team. They have finished 6th. They got Europe, but it's not where they want to be. And again, they've had quite a few incidents over the last season. A few incidents that won't have helped. But I don't know whether Tottenham they're going through a rebuild phase, aren't they now? And I don't know whether Mourinho will be able to take them into that top 4 and improve them. What do you two think?
I'm gonna disagree. I don't know about you, Cam. I'm gonna disagree just because when you put it into perspective, when Pochettino was sacked, Spurs were in 14th, and now they've still somehow managed. I know at the end of the season, the last 3-4 games, they've actually been brilliant, and I think maybe that's a sign of the future to come under Mourinho. But obviously getting to 6th, maybe at the start of the season would have been underwhelming as a Spurs fan. But I think maybe putting it into perspective compared to where they were before Christmas and where they are now, I think perhaps he's maybe not overachieved, but got them to where they'd want to be, still in Europe.
Have they underachieved more than Arsenal? Like, I don't think they have. So at least they've got them European places.
I think
so
if you base it
I wouldn't
on
include
last
them in
season,
overachieving.
I think you could say they've underachieved, but I guess I didn't really put it into perspective, like being in 14th.
But
I
then
guess from that
again,
position
they were.
improved, but...
Go on, sorry, Phil.
No, go on. Carl was basically finished with what I was saying. So.
One he is.
Go on,
what he is.
Basically, when they first took it, when Mourinho took over and they were in 14th, it looks bad them sitting in 14th, but they were only 3 points off Manchester United at that stage. That's all I was gonna say.
I feel like perspective is a very important thing.
Yeah.
And maybe they're not the most underachieving side, but if I had to base it off last season and their achievements, I think you'd have to say they've underachieved more than they would want to. But
Yeah.
I feel like they've recovered the season as much as they could have done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, either way, the Amazon doc is going to be a very interesting watch in terms of everything that has gone on at Spurs this season, regardless of where they finished and where they were. I think that's going to be a super interesting documentary to watch. Anything else in terms of underachieving, or are we moving on?
I haven't got any more teams to mention.
Nope.
Okay, I'll just mention Bournemouth. I won't. I know we said we said two, but obviously I don't think anyone really would have said Bournemouth would have got relegated this season. I think everyone really, I don't know about everyone, but a lot of people rated Eddie Howe very highly, and I think maybe this could show that he's not the manager that people think he was, whether he could manage a top six club, and he's not even been able to stay up with Bournemouth, a side that still have some pretty decent players. I don't know what you two think, whether they have underachieved or not.
I think they've underachieved because not many teams go into the season thinking that yes, we're going to get relegated. But I'm not overly shocked. But I suppose you could say so many teams have underachieved this season though.
Yeah. Do you think more have underachieved than overachieved?
Yeah, I do.
What about you, Phil?
Because I think.
What about Bournemouth, or the fact that more
Just-
teams may have?
Well, both.
So with Bournemouth, I think it's just a shame to see them go down, because is it 5 years he's been in the Premier League for?
Yeah, 5 seasons.
And obviously it was such a big achievement for the club, and Eddie Howe had done a brilliant job. But I think the downfall has been recruitment. When you think of the money they spent on some players like Solanke, that was about 20 million. And for a 20 million player, although he scored a few goals at the end of the season, it's not good enough. The goal drought he was on. Other players like Jordan Ibe, he was never got up to the level that you'd want after spending about 16 million. I think it's just poor recruitment's been their downfall. But I think, like you said about Eddie Howe, I think maybe it's showing true colours a little bit. I think people got a bit on the bandwagon and thought, oh, this guy's could manage a top six club, and maybe it just goes to show that when he's faced with problems like they faced this season, he's not been good enough to get them out of it. I think go on, sorry.
Yeah, I think it shows the quality of the Premier League though, because I don't think anyone really expected Bournemouth at the start of the season to go down, and it shows that when you just go through a really bad patch like they did before lockdown, and even slightly into lockdown before they kind of got it back, I think it shows if you go through that poor of a stage through the season where you're not winning games, not scoring goals, and shipping too many goals, I think the quality is going to shine through from the rest of the teams, and I think that if you carry on playing like that, then you're going to be in trouble in terms of relegation.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. But I think it's fine margins, isn't it? Like, although they've not been good enough in many games this season, like this controversy over the Villa game against Sheffield United with the goal line technology, things like that have gone against Bournemouth, and if that hadn't have happened, they could find themselves in the Premier League next season. But I think if you're not good enough in games throughout the season, you can't really pinpoint it on one moment, can you?
No, definitely not.
But I think they definitely are in the debate of underachieving. Now they've been relegated, definitely.
I do want to say as well that I think they will go straight back up next season. Just because
Do you think? I think they could really struggle.
Because I still think the foundation there is good, and I know I've said Eddie Howe isn't has shown that he's not a top 6 manager, but he's still a good manager, and I think they've not overspent in the summer, and I think maybe if Villa went down with spending like 150 million this season, then maybe they would have struggled just because of how much they've spent. But I just think the foundation's still there at Bournemouth.
I think they have to come back up next season, because if they don't, they could find themselves in one of these clubs.
Yeah, well, this is
establish themselves in the Premier League, and then they just go downhill from there.
Yeah,
that's worry I have for Bournemouth, because I think they could really struggle.
This is the thing about the Championship as well. Obviously, we thought Stoke would go straight back up, and now they're really struggling in the Championship. So I think when you do get relegated to a Championship, you've got to come back up straight away, otherwise you might find yourself down there in there for 3, 4, 5 seasons, or maybe even longer, if you don't get it sorted out. If you don't get the,
I think also this is why I worry for Bournemouth. Like, look at Sunderland; they got relegated. They had the ambition to come straight back up, and now they're in League One.
I don't think it is as drastic though at Sunderland. Obviously,
it's a completely different situation, but the possibility of that happening to them is still quite high. I think it's such a difficult league, and so many teams struggle to come out of it that you just never know, really. I think it'll be interesting to see how they cope next season, but I wouldn't want them to struggle and be relegated again. But it's a big question whether they can come back on next season.
Yes, definitely. We'll move on, just because we're half an hour in and we've only got through 2 categories and we've got quite a few to go, so we'll try to be a bit quicker and not go off into tangents in the next few categories. So we'll move to most improved player. Cam, I'll go to you first. You've been a bit quiet.
Oh, sorry.
That's right.
This one, Danny Ings for me, the main guy. He scored 7 goals last season, and then this season 22 goals, finishing second in the Golden Boot and 1 behind first Jamie Vardy. He's the most surprising and improved player this season, and for a team such as Southampton, just a mid-table team, scored 22 Premier League goals. It's a massive achievement, and I literally couldn't look past him. He was the first one I thought of, and
yeah, for me,
what do you guys agree?
The first one that popped into mind was Danny Ings. I think we all thought that Danny Ings was capable of scoring maybe 10 to 12 goals in a season, but I don't think anyone expected that he'd come second in the Golden Boot race with 22 goals scored at a club like Southampton, where the opportunities are maybe a bit more limited compared to better clubs in the top 6 and beyond that. But yeah, definitely, I think after leaving Liverpool, I thought maybe his career is gonna tail off because of all the injuries that he's suffered at Liverpool, and even early into his Southampton career. But this season he's been brilliant for Southampton, and probably one of the main reasons why they ended up finishing 11th and maybe not further down into the relegation fight. Phil, I'm guessing you agree.
I do agree. I think he is one of the most improved players, but he weren't the first player I did think of.
Okay.
I'll get to that after shortly. But no, I think he's had a brilliant season, Danny Ings, and with him used to being at Liverpool, a little bit biased, but I'm so pleased to see how good he's become this season. And I think just to show what a player can do when he puts all of injury problems behind him and he's played every single game this season, which is a massive achievement for himself. Never mind just getting second place in the Golden Boot race, but yeah, I think he's definitely one of the most improved players this season. Really delighted really that he's become the player he has for Southampton this season, and he's been an integral part for them, I think.
It's the type of goals that he's been scoring as well. He's been scoring goals from inside the box, tap-ins, and goals from outside the box. You've seen this season he's scored some absolute belters from outside the box. So yeah, I think obviously no one expected 22 goals from Danny Ings this season, but definitely for me anyway, the most improved player by far. Phil, I'll let you lead with who popped in your head first in terms of most improved player this season.
So in terms of improvement, and I think you two might not agree with me here, don't think many people might, but you might do. You might prove myself wrong.
Okay.
But I've gone for Martial as being one of the most improved players this season.
Cam's going to agree with that, surely.
Yeah.
I've got Martial down. I've got Martial down, yeah.
Yeah, right. So I think since Lukaku's departure, I know he was a bit of a disappointment at United, but either way, it left many United fans wanting them to spend money to get an established number 9 in. And I think Martial has filled the gap superbly. 17 goals and 6 assists as that number 9 this season. And why I think he's improved, his goals per match has gone up from 0.37 to 0.53, and its minutes per goal has gone down as well to 155 minutes. And I think he's just established himself as a really good goal scorer in number 9, but someone who can do the hard work, similar to what Firmino does at Liverpool, just not always be in the right position to score, but help the team around him from being in the right positions, working hard. And I think he's established himself as a really good player at United now this season.
Cam, I'm guessing you want to do a bit on Martial as a Man United fan.
Yeah, well, he's not actually included in my 2, but I was thinking him and like Phil said, I think it's a bit that surprised me when he stepped up. Like, you expect him to score goals because he's always scored goals. But when he steps up and it's a link-up play, he's the first player to start the press. He is a really key player, and I would look at him as one of the players of the season for Man United. And think that he scored them goals and missed 2 months through injury as well. There's foundations are there for a good relationship.
Yeah, I think he's been helped massively by the arrival of Bruno Fernandes in January. I think his creativity.
Yeah, he's getting that supply.
He's going to get the supply to score more goals. But I think Paul Pogba, he's got back into the team after injury problems, so he's got more players behind him and around him now at United to help him produce the numbers that he is. So I think that has helped. But I think he's off his own back as well. The improvement.
I think all he wanted, was trust. So just put your trust in him, play him every match. If he has a bad match, just keep him in, because he was so used to getting dragged off, or you'll play left for 20 minutes that match, or he's just getting moved around. So Solskjaer's put his trust in him, and you're my number 9 now. He's given him the number 9 shirt back, from which I think he was actually a bit annoyed that he lost it originally.
Yeah.
And just supply and trust. That's all he's been given, and he's thrived off it.
Do you think, Cam, do you think United will still invest in another number 9 this summer, or do you think they're going to, like you said, keep that trust in Martial to lead the line?
I think United have more pressing concerns to go and buy before. I don't think we'll buy a starting one. I can see us buying a backup player such as Josh King or something, just a cheap option to cover all 3 positions. Obviously, Sancho is the main player we'll be after to a front line, and I don't think we'll look to buy a starting 11 number 9 now.
Okay, all right. Well, I got 4 players down. I won't elaborate too much on the other 2. I've just said I put Kovacic from Chelsea. Obviously, I think last season he wasn't too great. I think he was still bedding into the league, and I think probably Chelsea fans questioned why they bought him back at 40 million price tag. But this season he's been brilliant. He's been brilliant to watch. He's been a mainstay in Lampard's midfield. And I put Riyad Mahrez as well, just because he was on the periphery last season at City, and I think this season he's earned his starting place probably as much as any other City player. His outputs in terms of assists and goals has been fantastic, and I think he's a testament to Guardiola's kind of player management, where he works on a player over and over again, and then eventually gets what he wants from them. He's seen that with Sterling, he's seen that with certain other players, and I think Mahrez has kind of stepped up to the plate now. His work ethic has gone up massively from what it was. So yeah, I would say them two, as well as Ings and Martial, who I also put down. Thoughts on that?
I agree with all of them. I like your Mahrez one because it's something different. People thought, oh, he's already a good player and all that, but yeah, it is like you said, it shows testament to Guardiola's. I still haven't done my second one, to be honest.
Oh, have you not? I thought you said. Oh, no, you didn't say Martial, did you?
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, go for it. Go for it.
No, mine was Fred. He got ridiculed in his first season by every fan in the Premier League and by some United fans as well. Because obviously he's bought for quite a big price tag at 50 million. But he really stepped up this season. I think it's another scenario where if you give a player a run of games, no matter what the form is, they improve. They gain confidence. They start to get into the rhythm of it. And Fred really stepped up when Pogba got injured, and it was him and McTominay. And Fred was one of our players of the season up until that point. And it is really harsh on him. Now Pogba's come back from injury, and obviously we've got Bruno Fernandes. Matic is the key person for that midfield, and it's quite harsh on Fred just to sit on the bench and not do anything, but he's really deserved his chance. But yeah, for me, he was massively improved.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I remember Gary Neville saying in commentary, what is he? Is he a 6 or is he an 8? Is he a 10? But yeah, I think especially when you went through that tough patch kind of before Christmas, where you couldn't really buy a win, I think Fred stepped up massively. He was brilliant either side of Christmas, and I think obviously now, like you said, it's unfortunate that he's lost his place because of having a balanced midfield of Matic, Pogba and Fernandes, trying to fit all those pieces in and have balance at the same time. But yeah, before lockdown, he was definitely one of your players of the season, along with Martial, along with Rashford before he got injured, and Fernandes now, who's obviously been brilliant, and we'll probably talk about him more later. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. What about you, Phil? What do you think?
I do as well. His form around Christmas time, but whenever he's played, I think he's been brilliant this season. I think, like Cam said, as soon as he gets a run of games, his confidence it had clearly shot up, and he had memorable games. The ones against Liverpool, the ones against Man City around Christmas. I think around then I thought he was brilliant, and he has been one of the best midfielders, and he is unfortunate to lose out on his place. But compared to the player he was last season, I think definitely one of the most improved.
Okay, very good. We'll skip through then to best transfer. I don't think this will take much discussion over who we think is the best transfer of the season. But Cam, I'll let you rave about who you think is the best transfer of the season. No doubt we'll be able to guess it.
Oh, rave. Nah. Yeah, there's only one answer, to be honest. It's Bruno Fernandes. I don't know if that's too obvious or not, but I don't even need to say anything, but I will.
There we go.
To come in January and turn our fortunes around that much, like people obviously came and expected him to do a bit, like, oh, he'll help, but he's literally changed our whole season. He saved our season. The last few games he has been poor, but he still gets that goal, he still gets that assist, and that's what we've been lacking, just that creativity and the balance he adds, changing how teams play against us. And overall he's got 8 goals, 7 assists in 14 games, 15 direct goal contributions in 14 games, not to mention all the link-up play that he's doing around the edge of the box. But I'm sure you two would like to speak about him as well, because you've both got him right.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask a question though. Do you think there's already too much reliance on Bruno to be that creative spark? I mean, you've seen with the games at Southampton where he was quite poor. This is not me saying, by the way, that Bruno Fernandes isn't hasn't been the transfer of the season. He's been head and shoulders above everyone who's been brought in this season by clubs. But do you think already, there is that attacking reliance on Bruno to create for Man United solely by himself?
I think it was when he came in and towards the end, because our team is that shattered. Because we have limited quality in depth. So we are forcing to play the same 11 every week, every few days really. So the players are tired. We're just trying to grind out results, and Fernandes was key to that. But I think if you saw a new, refreshed team with Pogba fresh, because obviously he only just come back from injury and he had that massive run of games straight away. So I think if you see a fresh team, fresh Rashford, all these players back, there'll be less reliance. And I think when there's less reliance, obviously, on him, then it's better for Man United. But yeah, I think there was obviously after lockdown a lot of reliance, but that was because I think how tired the players were in the whole team.
Phil, I'm guessing you're going to agree. I don't really have to say much on Fernandes just because Cam said it all already.
I don't think I have a lot more to say about him either, but yeah, I can't think back to a time that January signings had the single impacts that Fernandes has had on Man United. Where was you in the league, Cam, when he first came in January?
Seventh or eighth?
It was tight. Yeah, there's loads of teams in and around.
Eighth, and now you find yourself at the end of the season in third. I think he has been the best transfer this season, and his goal involvements and everything like that, his link-up play has been brilliant, and it's been brilliant to watch as well.
Yeah,
and it's transformed United into one of the. It's good to watch Man United again now. There's been many times you put them on, and it's just been a bit of a.
Is that not bad for you, Lucas? Is that not bad for you, Phil?
It's good. It's good from like a Liverpool and City point of view to see the team, one of your biggest rivals, struggle. But as a neutral, to see them playing well again and good football, it's only better for the league having more competitive teams. Yeah. And he has had a massive impact. And under a full season, it'll be very interesting to see what his numbers are. Because
I forgot to mention. We haven't lost a Premier League game since he joined.
Because we lost 9 and drawn 5 of 14 games he's played.
Because we lost against Burnley the match before he came, and we haven't lost since.
It's been a brilliant signing, and it has been hands down the best signing this summer and winter window by a country mile.
I think the harder task now is actually trying to find someone who has been actually really good, because I had a lot of trouble trying to find someone who's been really good across the whole season that's just been transferred in this season. But I've gone for
I've got one more mention actually, but yeah,
I've got
go on, Lucas.
2. But actually, go on, Phil. I'll let you.
You go first. I interrupted you.
Alright, well, I'll go with. Well, I've got as my second one. I've got Saint-Maximin from Newcastle, signed in the summer. I think he's been Newcastle's best player by far this season. When you watch Newcastle play and he's on the ball, you can tell he's kind of at a level above everyone that plays for Newcastle. And I think Steve Bruce and Newcastle have been very lucky to have him this season. His goal scoring contribution hasn't been incredible, but it's just his stuff like when Newcastle are stuck in their own half and they need a player to kind of run with the ball and get out. He'll run past 2 or 3 players and then he'll set other players up. Like I said, I think it has been slim pickings in terms of transfers, but I think Saint-Maximin will be key to Newcastle for next season if they do get if the takeover does go through. Do you two agree? What have you two got?
He's not the player that I had in mind, but I can see where you're coming from, because every time I've watched Newcastle, he stands out as the best player there. And he's a flair player. He's exciting to watch, and I agree. I think he's up there with one of the best signings. That the summer made. Like you said, there's not many to choose from, but he is definitely one of them. You can make a case for him.
Phil, who have you got then?
So Danny Ings, although he was on loan at Southampton last season, it actually only made permanent this season.
Are we allowing that?
It's a permanent transfer.
Clever one. I'll give you that. It's clever. Okay. I'll give him that one.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
If we're going off an actual purchase, I know he was there on loan, but on loan to a transfer, I think it is different. But yeah, so I think Danny Ings is arguably one of the best transfers, making it permanent. He's settled at Southampton now, and as we mentioned before, 22 goals, 2 assists, and it's 47% of Southampton's league goals this season that he's been involved
That's
in.
incredible.
So it goes to show how important he is to that team. So yeah, might not be officially a signing as such this summer, but we'll go for it.
Cam, what have you got?
Oh no, there's only one answer.
Oh, have you only got one answer? You. Oh,
No.
wow.
I can have a second if you really need one.
Yes, please. That'd be lovely.
I don't want to come across too biased though, but people have taken the neck out of him all season. But Harry Maguire, right, he's transformed our defence, the way our style of play, the leadership. He's our captain already. To be Manchester United captain after being there for only a few months.
Yeah, but what other leaders are there? That's the thing. When Ashley
Bruno.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he stepped up and become a real leader of such a big club after only being at little tiny Leicester. No, obviously he's just transformed the way we play as well. Like the build-up play from the back. Like we didn't really have the players for that to be able to drive it out of defence and pick out passes. He offers another option from set pieces. He's just transformed the way we play. We've got we've conceded some of the least goals in Europe out of any team. I think we had the most clean sheets in Europe or something up until a certain stage. But yeah, you'll all disagree, but
I completely disagree.
Yeah.
I
know that,
I see where you're coming from, but there's no way you're not going to come across as biased by picking two Man United players.
Well,
if you said Wan-Bissaka,
we all know that it's Bruno
but not Harry
Fernandes.
I
Maguire.
completely forgot about Wan-Bissaka.
No, Maguire's.
Go on then,
No
Phil.
chance.
Why do you disagree? Completely disagree.
First of all, I think the price tag. I think he's only cost that much because he's English. If he weren't English, he'd be worth 30 million max. And I know that's not United's fault, but I just think for his price tag, he's just not worth anywhere near that. And he has made a difference, but I don't think he's been anywhere near good enough as that price tag should be to a team. Considering how good Fernandes is and the impacts he's made, I know the different positions, but the price tag for Fernandes is, what was it, 30 odd million cheaper than what you paid for Maguire?
60.
Yeah, if you're basing it off. Yeah, if you're based.
If I'm basing
I think
it off
it's 45
transfer
plus
tag,
add-ons.
but I just don't think he's that good of a player, really.
Because we wouldn't have finished
It's probably
third.
me being a Liverpool
without-
fan and he's a United player, but I really don't rate him.
We wouldn't have finished third or in the Champions League without him. So
I think Fernandes is a lot more important to United than
yeah, he is, and that's why we've all settled on Fernandes as number one.
I think.
I don't agree with that.
Yeah,
Sorry, Cal.
It depends how you look at it as well, because if you're looking at I've looked at it on impact that they've had on the team, and obviously St. Maximin's had a massive impact on Newcastle's attacking lineup, and Fernandes has had a massive likewise had a massive impact on United's. But Harry Maguire has made United's defence better. Definitely, I do agree with you there with that, Cam, along with Wan-Bissaka. But on impact, I would say maybe not as much as the other two. Maybe that's probably why I haven't gone with Maguire compared to St. Maximin and Fernandes. I've got one more as well, just to add in. I've got Aaron Moy from Brighton. And I think actually when you look at Brighton's transfer business in this season, in hindsight, it's actually been quite good. More pay from Brentford has been decent, scored 10-11 goals for them this season, which is not bad for a striker in the bottom half. You got Tariq Lamptey from Chelsea, who they signed in January, who's actually been really good at right back. And Moy that they got on a free from Huddersfield, a relegated team, and Moy's probably been Brighton's first or second best player this season. I know Brighton haven't been too flamboyant in the way they play. But I think, like I said, on impact, Maupay and Moy, and maybe I'll add them both as a joint inclusion, have been good for Brighton. What do you two think?
I haven't watched enough of Brighton to say he's been a really good transfer, but whenever I've seen him play, he is a good player. What do you think, Cam?
I don't know. He only averages 67 minutes a game, so I can't say he's massively important if he's not playing every 90 minutes. If he was that important, he's that good, then I think he would have been playing 90 minutes every week. But don't know.
What about Maupay?
But, yeah, like Phil and what?
What about Maupay?
He's been a good signing for him. Yeah,
he's been a good signing. Yeah.
Like I said, it is slim pickings. I know I was maybe pointing out Moy and Maupay from Brighton kind of shows that a lot of the transfers that have been brought in this season have actually not performed to the standard or the price tag that they've been given. So we'll move on actually to biggest flop in terms of, well, we're doing this both in terms of transfers and just player in general. Who do you start with? Cam, I'll start with you. Your biggest flop transfer, just player in general.
Well, as a United fan, I have to pick out just one in general for this one, David De Gea. I don't know what's up with him. I watch him nowadays, I'm like, what is up with him? He makes far too many mistakes. He lets down the simple saves for a keeper that was the world's best at one stage, top 2 in Neuer for years, and now he's a laughing stock. He's a simple shot straight at him, he'll fumble into the net, and little dives just to his left, he can't get there in time. I think he's made more errors than any other goalkeeper in the past 2 seasons, which for a Manchester United goalkeeper is just not acceptable at all. He's just a massive flop, and he lets down a team at crucial times as well. It's not like only 3-0 up or something. It'd be in important matches. But yeah, what do you two think?
I agree.
Yeah.
I think maybe a little bit harsh on him still, considering what he's been for United. He's been
what
United.
He's been. Yeah, what he's been.
But I still don't think he's. I don't think he's that bad of a keeper still.
But can you warrant a Manchester United goalkeeper making the most errors out of any? I think it's any player in the Premier League leading to a goal in the past 2 seasons. Actually, can you warrant a Manchester United player doing that, and let alone David De Gea? The standards he set himself, that is a flop.
I don't know. It's interesting there because you've still, in terms of goals conceded, you've still been fine. It's not like you've shipped loads of goals this season, and I still think De Gea is still one of the best goalkeepers in the league for me.
I just don't think it's acceptable to be playing for Manchester United and committing them mistakes. It's not like if it's different mistakes or anything, but it's the same mistake each time. So it's either something not mentally right with him and it just seems coincided with signing a massive contract, where everyone was like, pay him whatever he wants. We've done that, and now he's sound now. I don't know whether he doesn't have enough pressure on him, the coaching, or just his mentality, but something needs to be sorted, really.
Phil, what do you think?
He's not one of the players that I had in mind when it came to biggest flop. I think he's, compared to standards that he's set in previous seasons, I think he's been disappointing, and he has made some mistakes that stick out. But I don't know. I think it might be a little harsh.
I think flop's a little harsh. I think he's definitely not the keeper he was.
I don't think he's had a disappointing season. I don't think there's disappointing and there's a flop in there.
Yeah.
I think he's had a disappointing season and he'd want to do better, but I don't think he's been one of the
But-
biggest flops by any means.
Him and Kepa, I'd say, have been some of the worst keepers in the league.
I think
this season.
Kepa's been worse
Yeah.
than what De Gea's been. Do you not
Alright,
agree?
I'll say Kepa then.
Wow. Oh, okay.
I think if you had to compare the two next to each other, you'd have to say Kepa because he's got the lowest save percentage.
Yeah,
in that Euro.
Kepa's not been very
Yeah.
good. Very good.
Maybe it's just because I watch every single minute and I'm like, what are you doing?
Mm.
Like, even because it's not just the mistakes that lead to goals from De Gea. Like, you don't see it like when he passed the ball a bit dodgy to Maguire or something, put us under pressure straight away from a goal kick, and in the end, United fans just kick it along. We've got to, because De Gea's passing isn't good enough for a top level club.
Would
He's
you
saving. Go on.
Would you want to see Dean Henderson take De Gea's spot next season, or do you think that Dean Henderson will play maybe number 2 or go back out on loan?
The ideal scenario would be to convince, because I think Romero's too comfortable as being a number 2. Like, he accepts that Hayes above him, that's it. But I think if you brought in Henderson, it's like, you two fight for the shirt now. And if De Gea makes that mistake, Henderson gets a run of games then. And I thought that'd be the ideal scenario, but I'm not sure whether Henderson would agree to that, because obviously he'd want to play every match again, possibly for Sheffield United again, and his development is going well. So I'm not really sure, but it'd be painful to not do anything at all and just let De Gea carry on going through the motions, and that's it, making more mistakes next season. That'd hurt Manchester United's season massively.
Okay, alright. Phil, your biggest flop of the season?
So mine, I've got the number 1 I've gone for is Pepe, mainly due to his price tag of 72 million and the hype that was surrounding him before he even played for Arsenal. He's got 5 goals and 6 assists in the league, and although that's not everything in a playoff, I think you'd expect more of an attacking output from someone you spent 72 million on. And next season he might improve and turn out to be a really important player for Arsenal. What do you two think? Do you think it's a fair judgment?
Yeah,
saying he's been
I've got Pepe at 1 just because of the price tag and then the performance across the season. He's not been good enough. I do think next season, I think sometimes it takes young players that come into the Premier League, it takes them a season to
Because I
adapt.
still think he's a good player, but I think he's not
Yeah.
got to the standards that he should have done.
Oh, you definitely see glimpses of it. You've seen
Yeah, he's had his moments.
some of the goals he scored. The goal he scored at Brighton when they lost 2-1. That was it's a brilliant goal, and some of his movement. You can tell he's a really good player. It's just I think it's taken him. He's not adapted to the league. Certainly this season, and I do think next season he'll actually be really good. I think his output will go up massively, and he might even prove that he's a £72 million player. But this season he's certainly not done that. What do you think, Cam?
Like you said, he's at the start of the season he was awful, but he's really stepped up his game massively now, and yeah, like you said, you see glimpses of it, and I suppose if you're judging it as a whole season, he can be assessed as a flop. But I think, yeah, he's done quite well. He's quite a positive player. He just needs that confidence up and just to get used to it, like you said. And like you said, next season I think we'll see a much better Pepe.
Yeah. Right. We'll keep it moving. Second flop. Phil. Who have you
I've
got?
gone for Joe Linton as being a flop. 40 million it cost Newcastle from Hoffenheim, and I think people just expected a lot more from him, especially when he's had to come and replace like Jose Perez and Rondon, who turned into quite. The Newcastle fans liked them both, and then he's had all that expectation, and he's got 2 goals and 2 assists in 38 league appearances, which is a very poor return for the outlay they spent. But again, it could be one of the things that he just needed one season to settle in, and he could be better next season. But I think he's had a very disappointing season. What do you two think?
I was gonna put him in, but Newcastle have not used him how he was used at Hoffenheim,
Yeah.
because at Hoffenheim he was either used as a front two or as a left winger, and they've used him for the majority of the season as just a sole number 9. And I think even at a young age, it'd be like playing Richarlison up on his own, kind of as a winger that can play striker, but he's probably more comfortable playing in a front two, like Richarlison has this season. He's actually been quite good in a front two this season. But anyway, moving back to Jolinton, I do think the output's been disappointing, but like you said, with 2 goals, 2 assists. But I think if they use him right and maybe harness that ability that he does have, because he's still a good hold-up player and a good link-up player, kind of what Rondon was. It's just not the goal scoring and the other attacking output hasn't quite been there this season. But I think maybe if they use him right, if they change system for next season, then maybe his output will go up and maybe he'll prove the £40 million price tag. But he's, like you said, he's certainly not done that this season, although I didn't put him down just because I don't think he's been used right. What about you, Cam? What do you think?
I do have him down. I also agree. I was thinking Sebastian Haller at first, but Joe Linton's been even worse. And you say that he hasn't been used right, but at the start of the season, Newcastle fans are accusing him just not even showing the fight, the grit of a typical Newcastle number 9. When things aren't going well for you and you're not scoring your chances, the Newcastle fans especially expect you to be running around that pitch, getting stuck in and creating chances for your other teammates. But he got accused of not even doing that at the start of the season, and he has missed some absolute sitters, to be fair as well.
That is
I just don't.
fair.
And to be at that level with the number 9 shirt at St James's Park to only score 2 in 38 games after that, it'd be awful even if they signed him for 5 million, 10 million. But for that transfer fee, massive flop. I agree, Phil.
Okay, alright, but yeah, I can say I was teetering whether to put him in or not. But yeah, I can see your points. I've got Ndombele, although I'm kind of thinking
he hasn't been used right there.
Yeah, maybe, but it was so frustrating because
of being a very, very good player.
He looks so good. It's so annoying because when I watched him, I only watched him sparingly last season because City had Leon in the Champions League. When he played against us in the Champions League, it was brilliant. He was so good. He ran the midfield, and he's not kind of the biggest kind of physical presence, but he's such a maestro, and the way he kind of when he moves with the ball, you can tell he's just such a good player. And I think when he has been used, I know he's obviously Mourinho and has not been in favour of him, but when he has been used, he's not been kind of like what I saw at Lyon last season. And again, it's kind of the case of maybe a young player coming into the Prem taking a while to adapt, but it's just so frustrating for someone I expected so much of coming into the league this season. I was actually really excited to watch Tottenham this season because of Ndombele. I think it's really frustrating to see that he's not quite been there, even though he's been used sparingly. I'm sure you two disagree.
I think he's had a disappointing season, but I don't think it's been helped by having to work under 2 different managers and all those other factors that you have to include. I think hopefully he can make the most of his ability in the Premier League. And I didn't really think about it when it came to a transfer flop as such, but I can see where you're coming from. I can understand where you're coming from.
I really want him to do well in the Prem. I really do, but I don't know if he's going to play again in the Prem. Well, maybe not for Spurs. I think he might even be moved on for a lower transfer fee for what they bought him from, bought him for. Sorry, but yeah, it's I think it's more not disappointment, just
like frustration, maybe from my point of view, wanting to see someone do so well and then not do so well. What do you think, Cam? What do you reckon?
Yeah, I do see where you're coming from, and I do think he will be moved on, and I think he will thrive in another league. But yeah, especially when to be honest, I wanted him to do bad because I thought he was that much of a good signing for Tottenham, and I was a bit scared when they signed him because like this might actually complete Tottenham, like it's an even bigger upgrade on like the Moussa Dembele type. He seems to be able to do a bit of everything, and he's so good technically. So when he first started to do bad, I was like, yes, that's good. But then he carried on doing bad, and he got mistreated by the club, kind of thing. I kind of do feel sorry for him. So yeah,
he's definitely one of the best technical players in the Premier League. Like, when you watch him play, he's so good. Like he rarely loses the ball, and it's really frustrating to see that he's not kicked on. Like I've already said, maybe I'm just a bit in love with him, but I think it is. It is. I am a little bit. It's just frustrating. But anyway, any other inclusions, or should we move on because we are now 70 minutes into the podcast?
I reckon move on.
Yeah, let's move on. Right, so we've got up next is game of the season. So we've done one from kind of a neutral perspective, and then one from our own club. So Phil, I'll start with you. We'll start with the neutral ones, and then we'll move to our own personal ones.
So my neutral game of the season is Wolves 3, Manchester City 2.
Bastard.
I'm not delighted at the fact that Man City had lost the game. But no, Man City obviously had Ederson sent off early on in the game, and then you got Sterling got a penalty, didn't he? After Mahrez went down, missed the first attempt. Then VAR had a Lorcan encroachment from Cody. He had another attempt, missed that, and then scored a tap in. Second half, De Bruyne played a beautiful ball into him, made it 2-0, and at that point you think, oh, it's Man City routine win. But it didn't go that way. You blew a 2-goal lead, and Wolves snatched it right at the death to make it 3-2. And I just remember watching it. It was just after Christmas, and it was one of the best games I've watched this season in terms of entertainment. And like I say, had the delight of seeing you lose a game. I don't know what you think.
Just move on.
Well, move on. All right.
No, I'm joking. If you want to talk about it, talk about
it. No, I don't. I can't really remember it. Obviously, like watching the full game, but obviously it was a good game. But I think I will actually move on because my game of the season is as a neutral. Norwich City 3.
Oh,
Man
why?
City 2.
Make it stop.
That was my other choice. That was one I was tempted to go for, but I think I just slightly enjoyed the Wolves one a bit more.
Just get on with it. Go on.
I think having 20th bottom of the league Norwich, and you look back and it's such a big win, and I think that was a match where like, Liverpool are going to get a lead here and they're going to start running away with it. I don't know, but because obviously they go 2-0 up and it's a massive shock. Everyone's like, Christ, and then you get one back and just before half time, everyone's thinking, alright, routine second half, Man City can score like 3 or 4, and then straight away, Timu Pukki, that guy who can't even buy a goal anymore. He puts them 3-1 up, and then you struggle for the rest of the half before Rodri just scores a little consolation in the 88th minute. You got any opinions on both the games, Lucas?
No, I remembered them very, very well. Not for good reasons, though. I think that the Wolves game was so frustrating. I remember because it was the one where Benjamin Mendy could have just played the ball.
Awful when Traore,
and then Traore absolutely bullied him off the ball, and then they went and scored. But yeah, Traore.
When you watch
Traore, that game
it's an avoidable loss.
Yeah,
because it's just.
Well, that's the thing with City this season. So we've played quite well in most games. Not the Norwich game, we played terrible. There was one of the other games after lockdown that we played terrible as well. But apart from that, like the games we played in this season, we played fine. It's just we've not had that luck of having to score. I think at Wolves we were actually really unlucky because we went down to 10 men, of course. and then we defended well for like 70 minutes, and then it all fell apart in the last 20-25 minutes. I thought Norwich, we played fine. It's just Norwich defended really well, and we had a couple of mistakes at the back. But yeah, obviously they're not good viewing looking back as a City fan. My neutral game of the season is Sheffield United 3, Man United 3. Phil, I remember watching this with you. Were Sheffield United 2-1 up?
It was 3-1 up, weren't they?
They went 2-0 up, and then we came back and went 3-2 up.
Yeah.
that was it.
It was when United they scored like 3 goals in like 10 minutes and absolutely blew.
Was that
Sheffield United
Greenwood's
away.
first goal for United?
Yeah, I think so, in the Prem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that,
But,
watching that game. And it was,
the Sheffield United's third should have been disallowed, but no.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't handball. It
was. Ollie
Hey,
McBurney
it
handballed that.
the irony of a Man
He did.
United fan complaining about VAR. Wow.
Mm.
Yeah, but that game for me is a neutral. I remember watching that game, and I mean it's being hooked.
I did consider it, but obviously United. It was negative for United, so I didn't.
Obviously not. Yeah, I think as a neutral, definitely the Wolves game I would have put in there if I didn't support City, but unfortunately I do. So so we'll go to our personal ones then. Phil, we'll go back to you for your Liverpool game of the season.
Yes, my favourite game that I watched Liverpool this season, I think it was Leicester 0, Liverpool 4. It was on Boxing Day, and I think it was just a statement of intent. I think that's the day when I've started to think this is the year we're winning the league. Came back from Qatar and putting a performance like that. It was just a great game from my point of view to watch and enjoy. All the goals we scored. Firmino got 2 that night, and Arnold got 2 assists and a goal. But yeah, I think that's my favourite game of the season from a Liverpool perspective.
That game, that was the best individual game from any player this season for me. From Arnold.
From Arnold.
Yeah, unbelievable. He was unbelievable.
Absolutely unbelievable.
He was incredible. I can't disagree with you on that.
I'm surprised, Phil. I'm surprised you didn't go for another match against Man City, 3-1.
What, the 3-1?
Yeah,
I mean,
I think that was a massive
first
turning
half,
point in your season.
He could have gone either way.
Hello?
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it could have gone either way.
At that stage of the season, I think City still had it in them to close the gap. Whereas at Christmas time, we beat Leicester, and then the night after, on the 27th, that's when City lost against Wolves. So those 2 days as a Liverpool fan, that's when you really start to believe like this year we're winning the league. But yeah, that Man City game at Anfield, it is up there, but it wouldn't even be in my top 3 probably. The games I've enjoyed watching, because that second half was just a bag of nerves. Because City came in waves of attacks, and they just couldn't finish. When you look back at the highlights, the amount of chances that De Bruyne had created for like Aguero and players like that, it's just amazing that we didn't end up drawing that game, at least.
Okay, alright. Cam, what about you?
Well, I went for this match because, I'll say the match then. Man United 2, Man City 0. I just don't. The one, that one. Old Trafford hasn't been like that in years. Obviously, we beat you in December, and that was a brilliant match in itself. But that one, I think, was a bit more nervy. Where this one, to have the 1-0 lead, and then we were defending quite solid in this match. But I just don't think Old Trafford has been like that in years. And everyone was buzzing, and that was the last match before last match with fans. United match had so that was massive. To finish, to have that lockdown period, and that was the last match, the last memory with McTominay sweeping that in. It was just brilliant. I bet you loved it as well, Luca.
Yeah, no, that was one of the games where we played that we were poor. And, yeah, United were definitely full value for the win. I'm not as angry as
every game I've mentioned. It's just been little digs at City.
It's fine. It's fine. My game of the season is Man City 4, Liverpool 0. Just to get back at you, Phil. I know it was
consolation.
a game that meant nothing, but it meant something in some ways as a City fan. I think it kind of proved that it's not going to all be Liverpool next season. They're not going to have an 18-point gap next season. I think it proves that City is still one of the best teams in Europe if we're able to sweep Liverpool like we did in that fashion. I think obviously Liverpool were a bit high off obviously winning the title, and obviously have to take that into consideration, but yeah, for me as a City fan, I think it was nice to just watch us beat a team that are at our level so comfortably, even though it meant precisely nothing in the grand scheme of things. I also put the City game away at Arsenal, the 3-0 win, just because.
So when De Bruyne absolutely dominated.
When he could have had a first half hat trick of like incredible goals.
If it weren't for that outstanding Leno save that tipped it on the post.
I just put that one in just because funny watching Arsenal get battered. That's it really, just for my own indulgence. So we'll move on to what category are we on to now? Best player to watch.
There's only one really, isn't there?
I've got like 10.
I've got two.
I've got 10.
Well, I'm interested to see if me and Phil have the same player then, because I think there's only one. But...
Okay, right. Cam, I'll let you start. No doubt. We know it's going to be.
Mine is Kevin De Bruyne.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, he is like some of his passing. You just sit there and like, not many players you could watch just a passing compilation, but you can with De Bruyne. That I don't know, like it's just weird. Like you can just his passing's so unique and so good. Them ones just in behind the defence and crosses are literally pinpoint perfect. And his long range shooting with both feet is brilliant as well.
Mm-hmm.
And just the way he dominates playing when he gets the ball, you think he could create something out of absolutely nothing. He is a good idea. He's just brilliant.
Phil?
I completely agree with Cam. I don't think there's been such an enjoyable player to watch, in my opinion, since the days of like Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard. You know, in terms of midfielder,
And Paul Scholes.
Just seems to have it all. His passing, his shooting, his work rate, and I don't think there's any better midfielder in world football. And it's been like that for a long time. Now De Bruyne is fit and put his injury problems behind him from last season. He's absolutely outstanding, and he's up there with one of my favourite midfielders just of all time. Really, he's such a good player to watch. He can do it all. Last day of the season, for example, those 2 goals he scored against Norwich, like nothing's riding on the game, and he just produced a performance like that. There's no other player in midfield who can perform like that, I don't think.
And you knew it was good when you've got a United and a Liverpool fan sat here saying him.
Yeah, I think I've also got De Bruyne. Obviously, you've said it all. I don't really need to say much more. Complete midfielder. We'll get on to player of the season in a bit, but no doubt they'll be in that discussion as well. My second one, and then I'll just list off loads of random ones without any elaboration. My second one is Trent. This is from a City fan to a Liverpool fan, so that the admiration is there, obviously, for both. Watching Trent as a right, you wouldn't think you'd enjoy watching a right back so much play football, but it's just.
He's not really a right back, though, is he? Because he can't defend.
All right. Well, Phil, I'm sure you'll have your bet on that. No, but just watching him play, watching him cross the ball, watching him, his passing like De Bruyne's, it's so unique and so good, especially for his age. He's only 21. Yeah, I don't think I'd ever think I'd watch. I'd enjoy watching a right back so much as I enjoy watching Alexander Arnold. Phil, who's your second favourite player to watch this season?
I've gone for Sadio Mane. It's my second favourite player. I hate getting into the debate where you say, who's best, Mane, Salah or Firmino, for example, and then when people try and compare it. But for this season, he's just been superb. Every single game, he always performs, and he scores some unbelievably he's just such a good player. Like, I can't really describe how good I think he is. And for Liverpool, I think he has probably been their best player of the season. And I think since the restart as well, he's been one of those players that it's if we're still playing to try and win the league title. He against the Aston Villa game when we won 2-0, he was the only player that day who I thought was there to make a difference. He's turned into a game changer at Liverpool, and he's my second favourite player to watch this season.
Cam?
What's my opinion on that? Or
Well, no. What's your second favourite? I don't think we can really argue Mane.
No.
Too much.
No. This was difficult. I didn't really know because I didn't really want to come across too biased or anything. So
Don't worry, you've already done that.
I know, yeah. So I'm trying to even it out, but don't really like saying two City players. But watching Aguero, don't know. I hate the man for what he's done, but he's a brilliant player, and I just admire him because for such a short, just a little guy, he can do everything, like literally everything, and he's a unique.
Describe that
little guy.
He is though. Well, I saw a Ferdinand quote the other day. Ferdinand said that was the toughest player he's ever marked. And he said, like, for such a small guy, he's so stocky, strong, agile, quick. He's got a good jump on him, like, and he literally can go. And something that I underrate is, I think underrated is his near post finishing. Well, obviously, not many other players do it, but he's such an expert at it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I obviously don't. It's not my personal best players to watch, De Bruyne and Aguero, because they're so good for City, but they are good to watch.
Okay, all right. I'll list off my other ones if you're counting. Kovacic, Bernardo Silva, Naby Keita post lockdown has been really fun to watch. Ceballos post lockdown, Bruno Fernandes, St Maximin, Neves, Ruben Neves, Podence at Wolves, and Lo Celso. Who's actually been really good to watch post Christmas when he signed permanent at Spurs. So yeah, right. So we'll move on to player of the season. Probably won't be too much debate over who are the best two.
I didn't even bother with any.
No.
Well, I've done a top five, so I'll let you two go
Top
first.
five.
Yeah, well, just because five's a nice.
Do you want me to do the honours, Cam, or should you say it?
Nah, you say it. Go on.
Alright, well, it's got to be Kevin De Bruyne, really, hasn't it?
I'd laugh if you went for someone else.
Yeah.
After building it all up, but no, I think it's got to be De Bruyne. It's not even a discussion, really. I don't think since that 2002-03 season has anybody, like statistically anyway, reached the levels that Thierry Henry did in terms of like assists. But I think De Bruyne is part of that elite company now. He's a legend in the making. Literally, I rate him so highly, De Bruyne, and 33 goal contributions in 35 appearances this season as a midfielder. Just unbelievable statistic to have. And he's been robbed of the assist record. You know that one against Arsenal that hasn't counted?
Yep.
Yeah.
3 assists taken away, didn't he?
Yeah, he had one the other day that could have gone down. The one
Mahrez
from
one?
yeah, which could have gone down as an assist. Yeah.
But yeah, he's my player of the season. I could say so much, but I'll let Cam. Let Cam say
go for it.
Well, obviously I agree, yeah, but no, it literally is. Like, obviously, what is it? He's in contention with Henderson and Mane, and I think for what they've done for the team, yes, but as an individual, De Bruyne stands out by miles. He's miles ahead, in my opinion. And as a Liverpool fan, saying that from Phil, that obviously it's good recognition. But like you said, to have 3 assists taken away from you as well this season, it's a shame that he hasn't got the outright record. But I don't know. I don't really have much else to say. I think Phil did say it, and we said a lot in the best player to watch. So I'm basically just like, 20
one more
assists,
thing I'd say about
13
him
goals.
is that I think he's that good that if the Ballon d'Or hadn't been cancelled, he could have seriously got it.
I agree. I don't. He could have got it. I'm not saying he would have.
It was
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it was between him and Lewandowski.
Yeah,
but I
him-
think
Him, Lewandowski, or Messi.
he's that good of a player that it doesn't even sound that out of sentence to say something like that.
Yeah.
He's and PFA Player of the Year, when that gets announced, if he's not the player that is announced for it, then he's been robbed of that as well.
Well, Jordan Henderson was the football writers, wasn't he?
Yep, not bitter about that. There you come.
No.
Yeah, so I've got De Bruyne at 1, obviously. Mane at 2.
Have you done this in order?
Yeah, I've done this in order. Trent third. 4th Van Dijk. 5th Henderson.
Where's Bruno Fernandes?
Bruno Fernandes would have been top 10. I'd Vardy 6.
No,
Do
yeah.
you two not think Salah deserves more mention?
No.
Not more than the 5 I put in. He would be top. He'd be top 10, I think, along with Vardy, Fernandes, Ings, and one more that I can't think of off the top of my head. But yeah, he'd be top 10, but not top 5 for me. I think those 4 players, those 4 Liverpool players that I've put in, have had more impact than Salah this season. Like, for example, if you take Mane out this season, do you win by 18? Well, do you win as clear?
No, you don't.
If you take Trent out, you don't, just because of his attacking output.
If you're going off impact, I can see where you're coming from.
Van Dijk, obviously, and then Henderson. Even though you would like last season, if you'd have said Henderson 5th, then you'd have been called stupid. But the impact that he's had this season.
Liverpool without Henderson. This is why I rate him so highly. Liverpool without Henderson is a completely different team.
Yeah, which is exactly why I've put him in at 5th.
Yeah. And that's why I think rival fans take the mickey and don't rate him, but if they watch the games, you can tell the difference when he's not there. Like, he's been such an important player.
It was last season when he played, because still last season people were unsure, even though he was club captain, people were unsure whether he was actually a starting. He deserved to be starting, but it was in those two those 2 games. I think it was Southampton and Chelsea.
Away, yeah.
Is it Chelsea? Yeah, them 2 games he proved himself as like he has to be a mainstay in that Liverpool team. So yeah, that's my order. I'm sure maybe we'll go over that a bit more in a future podcast. Yeah, so we'll move on now. We've done all of our categories, so we asked for questions on Instagram. If you want to follow us there, it's at the 451 podcast. I won't spell it out for you because these two give me stick for when I do that. So
I'm sure everyone knows how to spell podcast.
Thank you very much. So yeah, the first question is where will Leeds finish next season? Cam, I'll go to you.
It's a difficult one without transfers, and because obviously they will need a few additions, and it's interesting to see what will happen with Ben White because he was such an important player for them in centre back. I can see them just, if with the right signings, comfortably safe. Nothing too much though, just comfortably safe. That's with the right signings.
Sorry, I didn't realise you said my name then.
Yeah, go for it.
No, I think Leeds, I reckon in like 11th or 12th place. I think they'll have a decent first breakout season. Nothing too overachieving, but I think they can stay up. They've got a good manager, they've got some good squad players. So yeah, I reckon 12th place, 11th place maybe.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Phil. I think maybe 10th, between 10th and 13th for me. I think Bielsa's too good of a manager to get relegated with any team, regardless of who he's managing. And like Cam said, they're going to need some additions. Obviously, the whole Ben White situation, whether he stays at Brighton or whether he comes back on a permanent or maybe another loan to Leeds, because he was so important for Leeds this season, playing every single minute. Obviously, questions at striker: is Patrick Bamford good enough? For me, probably not in the Premier League anyway.
He wasn't good enough in the Championship.
Yeah, he was. Well, he was and he wasn't.
Not for he did the job, but
yeah.
but he's not. No.
Yeah,
no,
they've
they
yet to
definitely need to
replace him.
upgrade there. Yeah.
And obviously, being in the Premier League, you're going to need some good depth. Otherwise, you're not gonna fare too well. So yeah, for me, probably between 10th and 13th. I think that's probably a fair assessment. Even before the transfer window, we don't know who they're going to bring in yet. They've been linked with Cavani, obviously. Imagine if that goes through. That would be amazing.
Thiago Almada, aren't they?
Yeah.
The Argentinian youngster.
Yeah, I've seen that as well. So yeah, obviously there's a lot more to come regarding that, and I imagine as well we'll do a prediction for the league before the start of the season, to see what we think. So we'll move on to the next question. Who will finish higher next season, Arsenal or Spurs? Cam, sorry, go.
That's a good question. That I will go for Spurs, only just again.
Why?
But purely because they've been on a good progression since then, but I think both clubs will struggle for transfers though, so there won't be too much of a massive change in squads.
Phil?
Yeah.
I think it's so tough because, they could have two really good seasons. I think Tottenham. I'm going to go with Tottenham.
Okay.
But it's a tough one, that.
I think Tottenham could get top 4 next season. Could. Not saying they will.
Yeah,
not saying definitely.
I don't know.
There's always a chance for anyone, isn't it, if they could. It's going to be an interesting season.
I think Arsenal might get the Europa League as well, because I do actually think both will finish the season quite well, and I think if you give Mourinho a transfer window and obviously a bit more time, then he can start to work his magic, as he's done at literally every club he's been at.
He always tends to do better in the second season, doesn't he?
Yeah. So yeah, I think Spurs, but I think they'll both improve from what they've done this season. I mean, it's hard to not improve from what Arsenal have done this season. So yeah, I think Spurs, but they'll both do good. Question 3. Do Chelsea need the FA Cup for a successful season, Phil?
No, because you've got top 4, so I think that's an achievement within itself, especially considering it's Lampard's first season managing Chelsea in the Premier League and the transfer ban and all the other factors. I think they've done a good job in getting the top 4.
I completely agree with you.
So in that, I think they don't need to get an FA Cup to prove that they've had a good season. It would just top off, and it would make it a really good season.
Yeah. Well, that'd be the main goal at the start of the season, when it just get top 4 and they've got it. So it'd just be a nice bonus for Frank.
It'd be a brilliant season if they got an FA Cup. Obviously, winning something, especially for Lampard in his first season at a big club like Chelsea. Yeah, I think that they're all right as they are now, getting Champions League. I think they would have probably aimed for Europe, let alone Champions League this season. So yeah, I think if you're a Chelsea fan, I'd be content with Champions League. Next question: is Ceballos suited better at Arsenal or elsewhere? Cam?
I think under Arteta, he has done really well. Like, he was obviously brilliant at the start of the season, but I don't really know. Elsewhere, it's a very general question, so I don't really know. Like, whether if it's another Premier League club, I'm not sure. I think Arteta is the right man to use him the right way, and when he does get used, he will get used the right way. So yeah, stick there unless he wants to go back to La Liga.
Phil?
I think he does suit Arsenal. I think he's proved that he does. But you just have to see the way Arteta plays in his system, because managers can choose and change different systems, and players suit differently. Don't need to eat a system. So we'll just have to see. I think he does suit Arsenal. Can suit Arsenal.
I think it depends. Yeah, like you said, it depends on system, because if you play for what they've played kind of for the back end of the season, where they play a free back and then 2 in central midfield, or whether they go back to playing a 4 and then 3 in midfield, I think it depends, because I think Ceballos is a player that Arsenal definitely need. It's just whether he's suited there or elsewhere. It depends if you get the right players around Ceballos at Arsenal. Like they've been linked with Thomas Partey. If you get Thomas Partey in, then I'd definitely stay at Arsenal. I think Partey's a fantastic player. But yeah, for me, like you said, it depends on system and it depends on if they're able to bring anyone in the summer. So the last question then, which is quite a nice one to end on. Has VAR been a success or a failure this season?
Failure.
Phil, we'll go to you.
In terms of, it's been good in terms of it's made these really tight decisions. It can give an input on that, but I think it's just led to a whole load of confusion. I think it's took the excitement out of the game for fans.
Mm-hmm.
You know, think back to with Man City, when was it Sterling or Jesus scored in the last minute against Tottenham this season?
Oh, Jesus this season.
Yeah, and you would have won the game 3-2, but it finished 2-2, and it was a late winner, weren't it? Like, as a fan, you think the excitement that goes through when your team scores like a last minute winner, and then it gets ruled out for things like that. I think it has to be consistent, and with some things it is, but then other things it isn't. And I think if they got the system right, it'd be a success. But I think because we haven't seen the consistency with it in some decisions. I just think it's had its moments where it's worked, and it's had its moments where it's been really controversial. But I don't know what you two think. You might think differently. But
yeah, Cameron, I'll go to you first. What do you think?
I agree with VAR. Has it been a success this season? No. If you're looking at other leagues across Europe, they do have it as a success. So we could just use their concept, and it might be a success here. But no, we don't do that.
I don't think it's been an outright failure. By the way, I just think it's not been a success. I think it's been more of a failure than a success.
Yeah, just simple things like there's a screen on the side of the pitch. The referee should go and use it. Just tell the referees to use it, because then people can associate that with it's the referee's decision. But people are just saying like it's just someone sat somewhere in the country, nowhere near the stadium, making a decision off a few angles in. So I think the referees need to be trusted more to make their decisions, considering they made the initial decision. And that's what the rest of Europe do, so I don't see why we have to be different.
I think VAR is definitely the future of football. Definitely, I think whether it's implemented across all of England's professional leagues, but it certainly needs to be amended. So there's certain stuff. For example, there's the handball rule with leading up to goals. That needs to be amended for me.
See, that's where I don't mind it, because it's a clear rule, so there's no interpretation of it. Like if it hits your hand, that's it. Everyone knows the rules then.
In that sense, yeah. There's certain ones that need to be amended. So I think the handball one needs to be amended. I think that's in terms of its interpretation. If the rules are there a fact, then that's fine.
Yeah.
But I think it still needs to be amended to, like for example, remember when Spurs Sheffield United played, and I think Lucas Moura fell into the ball. He got tripped over and fell into the ball with his arm. Yeah. Harry Kane went and scored, and it got chalked off. I think stuff like that needs to be kind of amended to take incidents like that into account, because that's unfair.
That's where just
it's unfair.
Would have been 1-1.
Yeah, but I think they'd have gone 1-0 up, or already been 1-0.
They lost the game 3-0, didn't they? And it was 1-1 when Harry Kane equalised, or thought he had. Yeah, things like that. That was a shock.
At least that's a clear rule, though. So
it's clear, but it's not
human
right.
error or judgment. It isn't. But I think if that's because we're so used to it in another way, where in other countries it's like if it hits your hand in the penalty area, then it's a penalty.
Yeah,
where we're a lot more.
With the Moura incident,
I knew it wasn't his fault.
Yeah, exactly. Because he'd been fouled. That's the big thing. If he had fallen over, tripped over himself, and touched the ball fair enough, but he'd been fouled to the floor. and
Yeah,
that's why he
I
was
knew
on
that.
the
There's just
floor.
going to be unlucky. There's obviously going to be unlucky scenarios in football, but at least that is a clear rule. So
And
there isn't much interpretation
there's-
either way. But then, like, if you're going to do it that way, then you might need to reverse it and at least go, if it hits your hand in the penalty area, then it's a penalty, no matter what, as well. They just need to, like you said, they just
It's-
need a consistency all the way across.
Well, that's all it is. It's consistency, and it's there's obviously other certain interpretations of clear and obvious. What's clear and obvious? What's not clear and obvious? Is clear and obvious with offsides, or is that fact, or is that
I think
a fact or interpretation? They need to make that clear.
I think there should be a margin of error with that. So, like, obviously, it starts stupid when they start drawing like all these big toes offside. Like,
Yeah.
there should be a certain bit where they go, because they're not. Once they pause it on the frame where he's making the pass, they don't start looking like zooming in on that, going, when did it just leave his boot? Like, they're not actually doing that. They just concentrate on it. So there should be a margin of error.
And it's it as well with kind of sequences of play. So for example, the one at the Liverpool one at Old Trafford, when Origi was fouled. Yeah, or if he was fouled, is that does that involve in that sequence of play and then Rashford goes and scores like 20-30 seconds later? It's stuff like that as well that needs to be made clear to not just the referees but also the viewers and the fans in the
The
stadium.
problem with fouls like that, though, everyone has their own opinion. Because you could ask Cam now and say, "Was it a foul?" I bet Cam will say no. But you ask
Well,
me,
I didn't think he was fouled.
I'm it's a foul.
So, are you saying, like, there should be a time frame?
Yeah,
like,
so I'm saying,
if
yeah.
an-
So what classes as
Yes.
a sequence or a section of play?
Yeah.
So it's stuff like that that needs to be cleared up. I mean, obviously, I didn't expect VAR to be perfect this season because there's too many variables, too many variables. Sorry, too many like amendments and rules and whatnot that still need to be that have to be tested out before they can get it right. Which hopefully they will get it right for next season, for future seasons, for whenever. But I think it's been a bit of both. It's been a success and a failure, to answer your question.
It's a good,
Obviously,
good concept.
it's it's something that we could talk about for forever till the start of next season.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, that concludes all of your Instagram questions. If you do want to send us some questions in to answer for future podcasts, please do that, because that's actually we've got some good questions in there for future podcasts. So yeah, that concludes the podcast for today. It's been a bloody long one. We're not far off 2 hours. So yeah, thank you all for listening. If you've made it this far somehow, listening to all of our drowning voices,
Especially Phil's.
yeah, especially Phil's and Cam's biased point of views. No doubt, if you're watching at this stage, then you've clearly enjoyed the podcast, so that's good. So if you would like to leave us a comment on what you'd want to see in the future from us, that would be brilliant, and we'll take that into account. Like and subscribe. As always, leave any support, and that would be immensely appreciated by all of us. Keep us doing this content for as long as we can. So yeah, thank you all for watching / listening, and we will speak to you all probably next week. We'll probably do a Champions League themed podcast next week. So if you want to see that, leave a like, and we will speak to you all very soon. Goodbye.
Thanks. Bye.